The year was 2387. Humans had been part of the Galactic Federation for almost 200 years. Most alien races still looked at humans as new kids who did not know much about space. But humans had proven themselves as good fighters and smart planners in many battles. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the big meeting room on Zentara Prime. This was where the Federation Council made all the important decisions. Jake had many scars on his face from fighting space pirates. Next to him stood Dr. Lisa Carter. She was the best human scientist who studied alien life. She held a small computer with very bad news. "Council members," Jake said in a strong voice, "we found something very dangerous in the void sector. It can kill everyone in our galaxy." The alien delegates made strange noises. They did not believe Jake. Some of them looked angry that a human was speaking to them. 3 months ago, a human ship called Terra's Edge was exploring near the edge of the galaxy. Captain Danny Phillips and his crew found something that should not exist. It was like a crack in space itself. When they looked closer, they found something much worse. Dr. Carter stepped forward and turned on a hologram. "We found creatures that live outside our normal space. They eat entire star systems. They don't just eat the planets and stars. They eat the space around them too. We call them the Devourers." The council room became very noisy. All the aliens started talking at once. Most of them did not believe what they heard. Chancellor Vexthul was the leader of the Altarian Empire. His body was made of blue crystal that shined under the lights. He spoke with a mean voice. "Humans always make everything sound scary. This is probably just some space storm you don't understand." Admiral Betty Cole was Earth's top military person in the Federation. She stood up to help Jake and Lisa. "Sir, we studied this very carefully. These things already ate 17 star systems. If they keep moving at this speed, they will reach planets with people in 6 months. Ambassador Quindal was from the Zephyrian race. He had long arms like an octopus. He waved one arm to show he did not care. Humans have only been here for 200 years. Our races have lived for thousands of years. If something this bad existed, we would have found it long ago." Dr. Carter looked upset. She showed more pictures and data. "You never found them because they come from a different dimension. Our ships use quantum tunneling to travel fast through space. We think this accidentally made a hole that let them into our reality." When the aliens heard that humans might have caused the problem, they became very angry. Many of them started shouting. Some demanded that humans be kicked out of the Federation right now. Jake raised his voice to speak over the noise. "We are not here to argue about who is to blame. We came to warn you and help fix this. We have been working on special weapons that can fight these creatures, but we need everyone's help and resources to make it work." Chancellor Vexthul laughed in a mean way. "How convenient. You create a problem, and then say only you can fix it. The Federation has survived many threats. Without human help, we will handle this ourselves if it even exists." The vote happened very quickly. The Federation Council said no to everything the humans wanted. They would not listen to the warnings. Instead, they decided to make their own investigation team. The Altarians would lead it. The Council ordered humans to stop working on their special weapons. They also told humans to stay away from the dangerous area. As the human team got ready to leave Zentara Prime, Dr. Carter turned to Jake. "They are making a terrible mistake. Those creatures will reach the main worlds before the Federation even admits they exist." Jake nodded with a grim face. "Then we will have to be ready to clean up their mess. Again." The human delegation walked out of the council chambers. Behind them, the alien delegates continued to argue and make plans that would not work. Jake knew that in 6 months those same aliens would be begging humans for help, but by then, it might be too late. Dr. Carter looked at her computer one more time. The data was clear. The Devourers were moving faster than before. They were learning how to eat space more efficiently. Soon, they would reach the first Federation colonies. "Jake," she said quietly, "we need to start preparing our weapons now, with or without their permission." Jake looked back at the council building. Through the windows, he could see the aliens still arguing. They were wasting time while death moved toward them through space. Contact Earth, Jake said. Tell them we need to activate the secret project. The Federation might not want our help now, but they will need it soon. As their ship lifted off from Zentara Prime, Jake watched the planet shrink below them. It was a beautiful world with crystal cities and floating gardens. In 6 months it might not exist anymore. The Devourers did not care about beauty or politics. They only cared about eating. The human ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying the most important message in galactic history, a message that no one wanted to hear. But Jake knew the truth that all soldiers learn eventually. Sometimes you have to save people who don't want to be saved. Sometimes you have to fight for people who hate you. Because that's what being human means. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humans would have to live with the consequences. And if they were lucky, maybe the galaxy would too. 6 months later, the galaxy was burning. The first big city to die was the Kepler mining station. 12 billion people lived there across 4 planets. The Devourers did not just destroy the worlds, they made them disappear completely. Where the planets used to be, there was only empty black space. On Earth, President Ryan Foster called an emergency meeting. All the top military leaders came to the White House. General Amy Stewart was the head of Earth's defense forces. She had bad news to share. The Federation sent their investigation fleet to meet the Devourers last week, she said. All 200 ships were eaten in less than 10 minutes. These things don't just eat planets and stars. They eat the basic building blocks of reality itself. Captain Steve Miller had just returned from a secret spy mission. He saw the attack with his own eyes. I watched the Triangulum shipyards get destroyed. The Devourers didn't even attack it. They just got close, and everything within 50 light-years just stopped existing. Dr. Maria Santos was the new head scientist after Dr. Carter died in an accident. She had been studying the creatures day and night. We were right about what they are. The Devourers exist in many dimensions at the same time. Normal weapons go right through them because they're not fully in our reality. The news got worse. Ambassador Betty Cole had been called back from her job with the Federation. She had the worst news of all. The Federation officially blames us for everything. They voted to kick humanity out of the Federation. They also demand that we give them all our research about dimensional weapons. President Foster's face became hard with anger. After ignoring our warnings and refusing our help, now they want to steal our technology? It gets worse, Betty continued. They're sending a huge fleet to force us to surrender. Chancellor Vexthol convinced everyone that humans created the Devourers as a weapon. He says we're using them to take over the galaxy. The irony was bitter. While the Federation wasted time playing politics and blaming others, the Devourers kept eating more worlds. Hundreds of planets died every day. Their people just vanished into the hungry darkness. Dr. Santos showed them humanity's only hope. We finished building the reality anchor. It's a weapon that can force the Devourers to exist completely in our dimension. When they can't phase between realities, we can hurt them with normal weapons. But it needs perfect timing and massive amounts of energy. General Stewart looked at the technical plans. How many ships do we need? At least 50 ships with quantum resonance cannons. They all have to fire at exactly the same time. If even one ship fires too early or too late, the whole thing fails. The task seemed impossible. Humanity only had 300 military ships total. They were spread across dozens of star systems. Meanwhile, the Federation fleet coming to Earth had over 1,000 ships. Admiral Jake Morrison, who got promoted after the council meeting, had a desperate plan. We pull back all our colonies and bring our ships together. When the Federation arrives, we try one more time to convince them. If they still refuse to listen, we use the reality anchor without their permission. Captain Danny Phillips, the man who first found the Devourers, was worried about something else. The energy needed is enormous. We'd have to drain power from entire star systems. The weapon might save the galaxy, but it could also break space-time in that area. President Foster faced the hardest choice any human leader ever had to make. Save the galaxy by possibly destroying parts of it, or let the Devourers eat everything while the Federation played stupid political games. We didn't ask for this job, he said finally. But we're the only ones who can do it. Start getting ready for Operation Last Stand. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, more worlds died every hour. The Zephyrian homeworld disappeared overnight. The proud crystalline empire lost half their planets in a single day. Refugee ships filled with survivors tried to escape to safer areas, but nowhere was truly safe. The Federation military commanders finally started to panic. Their best weapons did nothing to the Devourers. Their strongest shields were useless. Everything they had learned about warfare was meaningless against an enemy that existed in multiple dimensions. Some alien leaders began to quietly contact human officials. They asked if the humans really had a weapon that could work. But Chancellor Vexthul refused to change his mind. He ordered these communications to stop. He said it was all a human trick. Dr. Santos worked 18 hours a day to perfect the reality anchor. The weapon was based on quantum mechanics that most aliens didn't understand. Humans had always been good at thinking outside the box. Now, that creativity was the galaxy's only hope. The weapon works by creating a quantum field that forces all matter in the target area to exist in one dimension, she explained to the president. It's like turning a ghost solid so you can punch it, but the energy drain is incredible. Admiral Morrison studied the battle plans. They would have one chance to get this right. If the reality anchor failed, the Devourers would eat Earth and humanity would be extinct. If it worked but used too much power, it might tear holes in space-time that would last forever. Captain Phillips volunteered to lead the most dangerous part of the mission. His ship would get closest to the Devourers to plant the targeting beacons. I found these things, he said. It's my responsibility to help destroy them. As Earth's defenses prepared for the coming battle, the Devourers sensed something was happening. They began moving faster toward the core worlds. It was as if they knew someone was planning to fight back. The Federation fleet was only days away from Earth. Behind them, the Devourers followed like a wave of destruction. Soon, everything would come together in the Sol system. Humanity would face both their angry allies and their deadly enemies at the same time. President Foster made one last broadcast to the galaxy. We warned you. You didn't listen. But we won't let everyone die because of your mistakes. Humanity will do what needs to be done. The message reached billions of people across thousands of worlds. Some cursed the humans for their arrogance. Others prayed that the humans would succeed. But everyone waited to see what would happen when three forces met above Earth. The Devourers kept coming. They were hungry, and they sensed a big meal ahead. The showdown came faster than anyone expected. Chancellor Vexthul's huge fleet arrived at Earth just as the Devourers broke through the Federation's middle defenses. When some alien commanders saw entire sectors being erased from existence, they finally understood that the humans had been telling the truth. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the human fleet from his battleship New Horizon. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Chris Anderson, reported what was happening. Sir, the Federation fleet is demanding we surrender right now. They want all our dimensional technology. Dr. Maria Santos was on the flagship as the lead scientist. She watched her instruments with growing fear. Admiral, we have maybe 12 hours before the Devourers reach Earth. If we're going to use the reality anchor, it has to be now. The communication system crackled with Chancellor Vexthul's angry voice. Admiral Morrison, the Galactic Federation orders you to stand down. Prepare your ships for boarding. Your species brought disaster to the galaxy, and you will face justice. Jake's response was calm but firm. Chancellor, I'm sending you data about the Devourers. Your normal weapons won't even slow them down. We have a weapon that can stop them, but we need your ship's power cores to charge it. More human lies, Vexthul snarled. You want to steal our technology while hiding behind fake threats? As if the universe wanted to prove Jake right, the Devourers appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Federation sensors immediately detected the reality warping effects as entire moons around the outer planets simply stopped existing. Captain Danny Phillips commanded the destroyer Earth's shield. He broadcast on all radio frequencies. All ships, this is your only warning. These creatures eat everything in their path. Normal weapons are useless. You need to work with us or we all die. The first Federation ships to attack the Devourers were the pride of the Altarian fleet. These were massive warships with weapons that could destroy planets. Their antimatter cannons and quantum torpedoes passed right through the creatures like they weren't even there. Meanwhile, the Devourers' influence field spread out to touch the attacking ships. One by one, the great warships vanished. They weren't destroyed or blown up. They were erased from existence as if they had never been built at all. Terror finally broke through the Federation's pride and arrogance. Ship after ship broke formation as their crews realized how bad things really were. Some tried to escape to the outer system. Others desperately asked the human fleet for instructions. Jake didn't hesitate. All Federation ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Give command authority to New Horizon. We're starting the Reality Anchor Protocol. Ships that help us will get targeting coordinates. Those that refuse can retreat. Chancellor Vexthal's protests were cut short when his own sensors detected something horrible. His homeworld was gone. The Devourers had eaten the entire Altarian system in the past hour while he was busy arguing with humans. Dr. Santos started the charging sequence for the Reality Anchor. The device was built into the core of every human ship. It began drawing power from all the ships that agreed to help. Admiral, we're getting cooperation from about 60% of their ships. It might be enough. The Devourers sensed the charging weapon and moved faster toward Earth. Reality itself began to bend and twist under their influence as they prepared to eat the entire solar system. Lieutenant Anderson counted down the final seconds. Reality Anchor charged to 97%. All ships report ready for synchronized firing. Jake gave the order that would either save the galaxy or tear it apart. All ships fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. 53 human ships and 42 Federation ships fired at exactly the same time. Their quantum resonance cannons created a grid of intersecting energy beams that covered the space around the Devourers. The Reality Anchor activated with a flash of blinding light. For the first time since they entered this dimension, the Devourers were forced to exist completely in normal space-time. They could no longer phase between dimensions to avoid attacks. Creatures reacted with what could only be called surprise and anger. Their reality warping fields collapsed completely. For a brief moment, everyone could see what they really looked like. They were vast, dark masses of energy that seemed to be made of pure hunger itself. The combined fleet poured everything they had into the trapped creatures. Antimatter warheads exploded against their forms. Plasma cannons burned holes through their dark bodies. Kinetic projectiles moving at incredible speeds finally found their mark. The Devourers, unable to escape to other dimensions, began to die. But the victory came with a terrible price. The Reality Anchor used so much energy that it destabilized space-time around Earth. Several human ships were torn apart by quantum fluctuations that ripped holes in reality. The outer planets in the solar system were knocked out of their normal orbits by the massive energy discharge. Captain Phillips watched his instruments as his ship began to break apart. The Earth's shield was too close to the Reality Anchor when it fired. His final message came through the chaos and static. Reality Anchor successful. Devourers contained to this sector. Tell Earth, tell them we did it. The Earth's shield disappeared in a cascade of quantum fire. Captain Phillips and his entire crew vanished with their ship, sacrificing themselves to save everyone else. As the energy from the Reality Anchor faded, the Devourers were gone. The immediate threat was over, but the cost was enormous. Dozens of ships from both fleets had been destroyed. The solar system itself was damaged, with strange energy fields that would take years to fade away. Chancellor Vexthal's voice came over the communication system. For the first time, he sounded humble and ashamed. Admiral Morrison, we were wrong. Your people saved us all. Jake looked out at the wreckage floating around Earth. Good people had died because others refused to listen to warnings, but humanity had done what needed to be done, just like always. The threat is over, Jake announced to all ships. Begin rescue operations for survivors. We have a lot of work to do. Dr. Santos studied her readings. The Reality Anchor had worked perfectly. But the side effects would last for decades. Large parts of space around Earth would be unstable for years. Some areas might never return to normal. We won, she said quietly. But at what cost? Jake looked at the list of ships that had been lost. Too many good people had died. But billions, more were alive because of their sacrifice. The battle was over. Now came the hard part, rebuilding and making sure this never happened again. After the battle, the galaxy slowly began to understand what had almost happened. The Devourers were gone, but huge areas of space remained dangerous because of the reality anchor's effects. Billions of people were dead, and hundreds of worlds had been completely erased from existence. The political consequences came quickly and harshly. Chancellor Vexthal faced a trial for his terrible decisions. His homeworld was gone, and most of his people were extinct. The Federation Council was reduced to half its original size. Member species demanded answers for the disaster. President Ryan Foster spoke to the surviving galactic leaders from the new Federation chambers on New Geneva Station. The original Zentara Prime had been consumed early in the Devourer invasion. "We didn't want this responsibility," Foster said, his voice heavy with the weight of recent losses. "We warned you. We offered our help. We begged you to listen. And when you refused, we acted anyway because someone had to." The assembled delegates listened in complete silence. Many represented species that had lost their homeworlds. The old arrogance and dismissiveness had been burned away by the reality of near extinction. Dr. Maria Santos presented the final casualty reports. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed the pain of losing so many friends. Total losses, 437 star systems, approximately 800 billion people. The reality distortions will take decades to fix. Large parts of the galaxy will be uninhabitable for many years. Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the assembly. He wore the medals of a hero, but his face showed the haunting memories of friends lost in the final battle. The Federation's fleet is down to 30% of its original strength. Human losses were even higher, because we were closest to the reality anchor when it fired. We're all vulnerable now. The question of rebuilding hung heavy in the air like a dark cloud. The old Federation system had been built on species hierarchy and political games. It had failed catastrophically when real danger appeared. Something completely new had to take its place. Ambassador Betty Cole proposed the framework that would eventually become the Galactic Alliance. Equal representation for all species, regardless of how old they are or how advanced their technology is. Decisions based on scientific evidence, not political convenience. And most importantly, when someone sounds a warning, we listen. The proposal passed without a single vote against it. The surviving species had their populations scattered across refugee fleets and temporary colonies. They had learned the hard way that survival required cooperation and humility instead of pride and politics. The trials that followed were swift, but fair. Chancellor Vexthal was found guilty of criminal negligence that led to genocide. He was sentenced to spend his remaining years helping rebuild the worlds his arrogance had helped destroy. Many other Federation officials faced similar punishments, but punishment couldn't bring back the dead or restore the lost worlds. The galaxy had to learn to live with the scars of its mistakes. Years passed slowly as the galaxy began to heal. New colonies were established on surviving worlds. Refugee populations were given new homes. Trade routes were rebuilt around the dangerous zones where space-time remained unstable. Monuments were built to remember the victims of the Devourer War. The largest stood in the ruins of the Sol system, where Captain Danny Phillips and his crew had made their final sacrifice. Earth itself had survived, but the outer planets would never return to their normal orbits. The inscription on the monument was simple but powerful. They warned us. We didn't listen. They saved us anyway. Dr. Santos, now the Alliance's chief scientific advisor, often visited the memorial. She carried with her the last message from her mentor, Dr. Lisa Carter, who had died during the evacuation of the outer colonies. The universe is vast and full of wonders and terrors we can't imagine. The moment we stop listening to each other is the moment we all die alone. The galaxy had learned that lesson at the cost of nearly 1 trillion lives. The price of ignorance had been paid in full, with interest that would compound for generations. But humanity continued to serve as guardians and protectors, even in their grief and loss. New human colonies were established specifically to monitor the dangerous zones. Human ships patrolled the borders where reality remained unstable. Human scientists worked around the clock to develop early warning systems for dimensional threats. Because that's what humans did. They stood watch so others could sleep peacefully, even when those others had refused to acknowledge the danger. They protected people who had blamed them and rejected their help. The Galactic Alliance grew stronger. Each year, new species joined willingly, attracted by the promise of equality and scientific cooperation. The old ways of doing things were remembered only as cautionary tales told to children. Admiral Morrison retired to a small colony world where he wrote his memoirs. The book became required reading in Alliance schools. Its most famous quote was simple: "The hardest part of being human isn't facing the monsters in the dark. It's saving the people who refuse to believe the monsters exist." Dr. Santos continued her research into dimensional physics. She was determined that humanity would be ready if anything like the Devourers ever appeared again. Her team developed new sensors that could detect dimensional breaches years before they became dangerous. The work was difficult and often frustrating. Many nights Santos would stand on her laboratory balcony and look up at the stars. Some of those stars were gone now, eaten by creatures that most people preferred to forget about. But the remaining stars shone brighter somehow, as if the galaxy itself was grateful to still exist. President Foster served 3 more terms before retiring. His farewell speech became one of the most quoted in galactic history. "We are all guardians of each other. When we forget that truth, we invite disaster. When we remember it, we can face any challenge the universe throws at us." The Devourers were gone, but their legacy remained. The galaxy was smaller now, scarred by voids where entire civilizations had once thrived. But in those scars, new alliances had formed. New friendships had been built on the understanding that no single species had all the answers. Humanity had earned their place not through conquest or manipulation, but through sacrifice and service. They had paid the price for the galaxy's ignorance and stubbornness, and in doing so they had saved everyone from the darkness that hungers between the stars. The warning had been given. The galaxy had ignored it. The price had been paid. And now finally the galaxy listened when humans spoke about danger, because they had learned that sometimes the newest voice in the room is the one telling the most important truth, and sometimes the species you look down on is the one that will save your life. The galaxy would never forget either lesson.